These are the top 5 switches you should be buying at Milktooth this April 2026. The Waverider V2 is the newest tactile from HMX. These Waveriders are created by the same team behind the game-changing Type Rs, a switch that features zero linear travel whatsoever, making it a 100% tactile switch. The Waverider V2 takes a different approach to the hyper-tactile concept though. You still get a pronounced, sharp, capital P-shaped tactile bump, but with a longer 3.8mm travel distance compared to the Type R's 3mm, so there's noticeably more travel here. These also sound quite a bit brighter and clackier than the Type Rs, so if you want the hyper-tactile feel with a livelier sound signature, the Waverider V2 is the one to go for. Here's the sound test. The HMX Puppy is a tactile that carves out a really interesting middle ground. It's deeper than your typical HMX clack in that it's more muted, with a softer bottom out sound and a slightly poppy top out. If you want a tactile that isn't silent but also isn't loud, then the Puppies are the switches you should be going for. For context, HMX's molds are known for producing bright and resonant options, but the Puppy uses modified nylon blends to dial that back down and make it more restrained. The bump feels mid-sized with some pre and post travel, which makes for a mellow typing experience. In contrast to the Waveriders we just talked about, these are just more subdued in almost every dimension. So if you want something less in your face, the Puppies are my top pick for that. Here's the sound test. The Gateron Grape Smoothies are our silent switch pick for April. The Grape Smoothie features a cool new silencing mechanism. It's this white thing here that to me looks like a little marshmallow tucked behind the rails of the switch, and it does a great job of eliminating any noise. The tactility is nice and grounded, making these comfortable for extended typing sessions even if the bump isn't the sharpest. What I especially appreciate is the stronger springs. Silent tactiles have trended lighter lately, so it's refreshing to have a heavier option here for those of us who type with more force. Here's the sound test. The Keygeek Little Witch is loud and clacky. It's almost the opposite of the Puppies we just talked about. Whereas HMX dialed things down, here, Keygeek turns it up. For context, Keygeek usually specializes in deep sounding switches, but the material choices here make it more resonant and bright than you typically expect from them. The bottom housing is nylon, but what makes this nylon special is that it's infused with fiberglass to push the sound brighter. Paired with a modified palm stem that makes the switch harder overall, you end up with a combination where softer plastics meet harder materials, and that harder feel translates directly into a lighter, clackier sound. Together, it all adds up to one of Keygeek's clackiest switches to date. Here's the sound test. And for our best overall switch of the month, I want to hand things over to a community member from our Discord, Big H. Big H is a tactile connoisseur who has tried a couple dozen of them at this point, so he's the best person to weigh in on the Hojicha Reserve V2s.
The V2 brings tactility to the Reserve collection with what is in theory a fairly large tactile bump. What I mean by in theory is that these Hojichas come with a notably thicker factory lubing than most switches, which I find mutes the tactile bump a bit. The Hojichas feature a 60-gram bottom out force, so they're considered medium weight, and with a 3.6mm travel distance, you get just a bit more room to enjoy that tactile feedback. What makes the Reserve collection special is that while each switch has its own personality, they share some key traits. Generous factory lube, a relatively mild and pleasant sound signature, and that medium 60-gram bottom out sweet spot so that they are substantial without being fatiguing. Take a listen to how they sound.
Now, here are back-to-back sound tests for the switches we talked about today. But if you enjoyed these sound tests and want to know more about the board they were all recorded on, make sure to check out the NUS65, which is the keyboard behind every sound test in this video. For now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.